Let's talk about Sam Walton and how humble he was. So this was a story that actually occurred fairly recently. This was, it occurred before I was born, but only like 1 or 2 decades before. So it's like kind of recent. So Sam Walton, if you don't know, he was the person who truly founded Walmart. Um, and his story about how Walmart founded is a very long story. He grew it and grew it and grew it, and there's a lot of twists and turns in his journey. But this is a very interesting, funny, awesome story about how humble he was, even when he was the richest person in the U.S. and for the world, for that matter. So this guy was humble, 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 always learning, down to earth American man, and I would say he was kind of genetically inclined to be how he was and how great he was, but he worked very hard and did a lot of other stuff. So here's the story. He has finally built Walmart into this billion-dollar company. He is declared the richest man in the United States, and he's just this humble guy. He does a lot of normal, old-fashioned stuff. He hunts these birds with his dogs, and he does a lot of stuff that he did back when he was poor. Even though he was like rich beyond belief and he was getting really old, he still wanted to go out and fly out and check out his stores on a daily basis, even though he didn't have to, even though like he was kind of getting old and it's tough for him to even walk. He still did this stuff. So here's where the story begins. He's already declared this rich person, and he's still this very old-fashioned guy. This man sits down with him to talk and interview him, and they're at this like diner, I believe, and guess what? First thing out of his mouth is like, "Oh, that's Steve." I forgot his name. It was like, "Oh, that's Steve. I have a lot to learn from him." Think about it. How many people get such big heads when they're rich or they've made so much money? But not Sam Walton. He's like, "That's Steve. I have a lot to learn from him. He started a business in farming, and now he's grown it to make a lot of money. I could learn a lot from what he's done." And that's how he always was. If you read his book, Made in America, it's how he always was. He was always trying to learn from other people. When he started off, and later on when he was already pretty successful, he would go to all his competitors with his little book, and they wouldn't know who he was, and he'd just be learning, like, "Why do you do this? Why do you do this with your store?" and so forth. And they would tell him because they just thought he was this like random guy. Nowadays, I don't think that would work. People would get like suspicious. And he did all sorts of stuff. Like he would go into his competitors' stores with tape recorders and just like observe everything and record it. And he got caught by the security, and they took his tape recorder away. And he was one of the most charming, sociable, social savvy guys in terms of business out there. And so he wrote this letter, and he was like, his way of approaching it was just really down to earth and humble and heartwarming to the other person. So this was like his direct competitor. He wrote it to like the chairman of this thing. I think it was, and they were already like $100 million company. And so he wrote this thing, and it was like it started off like, "All right, you caught me. You have complete and full right to do whatever you want with my tape recorder. I acknowledge that I was wrong, but if you have the if you would, I would love it if you could take it back. And I know because you caught me in your store, you can do whatever you want with the tape recorder. If you want to listen to it, you have full rights to do so." And again, he phrased it a lot better than me, but that was just like my memory of him writing the letter. And again, he's just such a people person. And guess what? He got his tape recorder back, and it's quite an amazing story. So I'll give you another one, just showing you how humble he was as a person. So this again, this is when he was already declared very, very wealthy. Um, I'm going to summarize this very quickly because this video is getting pretty long already. He was so all these people in like Venezuela or South America, they were asking about, they're trying to contact discount retailers um, in the United States, and they were like, well, we're trying to learn more. And here's the thing, only one person responded. It was Sam Walton. And Sam, you know, as a person, he always did these things where he opened himself up to the public, even in his office. So customers, everyone could just go to his office, and there's just like direct link, even when he got really big. And so he's the only one who responded. And so what happened was he said, okay, I'll take you up on your offer. And so they flew down, and lo and behold, they were met by this old man, and they're like, can you take us to Sam Walton? And he's like, well, I am Sam Walton. Get in the pickup truck. And so they're in the pickup truck, and they're having fun, and then they start, you know, they're eating in his house. And guess what? The first thing Sam Walton says is like, he starts asking all these questions about South America. And lo and behold, they find out that Sam is very, very interested in learning a lot from them. It's not just him like trying to explain things to these people. He's this avid learner. So he's learning all this stuff about South America, how the marketplace is different, and on and on and on. And then later on, they fly down into South America, and Sam is just doing his thing there, and they get a call one day, and it turns out he's in jail. And why is he in jail? Because basically he got like arrested because he was in the store. Again, this kind of is why I think he was genetically inclined to do this sort of stuff. Kind of how like Warren Buffett was very genetically inclined to be kind of quirky in his interest. He was on the floor, like lying on the floor, measuring the aisle. So they thought he was this crazy person. But in reality, he was like the richest person in the United States at the time. Why was he measuring the aisles? Because you know, he wanted to know everything about the differences of the store. He wanted to know if they knew something that he didn't, or that there's this new little thing that he could do to improve the quality of his stores. It's funny because nowadays I'm picking up on all this stuff when I'm at the supermarket. I was at, I believe it was Wegmans the other day, and I was looking at the aisle lanes, and they were just huge in comparison to Giant and Safeway or whatever other store. They're just like ridiculously large. You could fit 2 carts between them, and so it's a definitely different style of putting up the aisles, which is very intriguing because again, it's like that amount of space is very costly, and you're not able to put up as much food in a complete area. So it's like there must be some trade-off. Perhaps the more movability allows for potential more comfortableness with the customers. Who knows? But that's the stuff Sam Walton was looking at, and he loved it. And that's how he made his money in a nutshell. I mean, there's so much more to a picture than that. Check out his book if you're interested. I'll leave a link in the description if I remember, and somewhere on this video if I remember, to his book. And that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.